Thank you all so much for joining me virtually today. Once again, my name is Carrie Schved. I'm the Education Director here at White Memorial Conservation Center in Litchfield, Connecticut. I am going to jump on one of our many trails today. You may not be aware, White Memorial has 40 miles of trails, and only 1 mile of them is closed right now. The boardwalk trail is off limits because of the number of people. It was hard to stay, to keep our social distancing. So that one is closed down, but every other trail is open. Just please remember when you're on the trail to give people their 6 feet of space as you're walking by, which is exactly what we'll do today on this trail. I am not too far from the museum. I'm just down the hill. I'm right next to Algae Pond at the moment, which is where I did a walk a few weeks ago. I went around Algae Pond, and if you are interested in seeing what we saw on that hike, all of our Facebook Live programs are still available on our Facebook page, so feel free to scroll through our videos and you can take that virtual Algae Pond hike with me. Today we're going to start at Algae Pond, but we're going to work our way down one of the trails that connects the Algae Pond Trail to the Lake Trail. So a little bit different environment today. And I'm going to start off this program with a quick activity. So I have a picture to show you. I'm going to flip my camera around so that you can see the picture. Just a second, I don't want it to blow away in the wind. Oh, okay. All right, let me flip my camera here. Okay, so when I show you this picture, I want you to quickly notice the first thing that you see when I turn over this picture, and then look for the second thing, and then look for the third thing, okay? So here's our picture. Obviously, very photoshopped. We have a person here right next to a grizzly bear. At least let's hope it's photoshopped. But when you look at this picture, what is the first thing that you notice? I would guess it's probably one of the two things I just mentioned. And then what's the next thing? And the next thing after that? I'll do a little scan of the picture just so you get a really good view of what's here. Okay? And if you want to chime in with any of your first impressions of this picture, feel free to do so. This is not a picture from around here. Well, at least the grizzly bear certainly isn't from around here. And like I said, I'm sure it's photoshopped. But the background might be from in this area. Who knows? But I use this picture because what I want to point out is that it takes a while before we get to some of the more inconspicuous organisms on this page. So I would say the first thing that I noticed, yeah, everyone's saying the bear, the person, and then the waterfall. There's a pretty giant boulder there. So yeah, the top 4 things I would probably say are the person, the waterfall, and the grizzly bear, and then maybe those large boulders. It takes us a while, although some of you have pointed them out, it takes us a while maybe to start to notice things like the ferns that are growing next to the rocks, or maybe the moss, all the different types of mosses that are growing on the rocks. Or maybe even if you take a closer look, there's some lichen growing on the rocks as well. So these are all organisms that are all around us. They're so ubiquitous. They're almost everywhere you hike. And yet sometimes we maybe tend to not focus on them too much. But that's really what our talk is going to be about today. This talk is called the Small Wonders Walk, because I'm just going to point out some of those organisms that maybe don't get quite as much attention, or maybe we just tend to overlook them when we're going on hikes, or if we do see them, maybe we just don't really give them too much of a second thought. So let's take the time today to give them a little bit of a second thought. So I am going to point out some algae, some moss, some lichen, some ferns, maybe even some fungus if I can find some. And, you know, of course, I mean, I do love animals as well. So if we do happen to come across some animals, large or small, I will definitely talk about those as well. But we're going to make sure that we highlight some of the small wonders that exist in nature that often get overlooked. So I am going to start right on the other side of me here. Let me flip my camera around, and I will quickly pan this beautiful landscape of Algae Pond. Again, this is just down the hill from the main area at White Memorial. And so this is very easy to access, and there is a trail that goes all the way around Algae Pond. Beautiful landscape, beautiful landscape. But what I really want to take the time to talk about right now is all of this stuff, this green stuff on top of the water. A lot of us might just call it muck. I've been guilty of calling it muck many times before. But what is this actually? I bet you all know. This is algae, okay? This is algae, and algae is one of the most important plants on this planet, and I'll tell you why. It is a plant that does make its own food, and in doing so, it does release oxygen into the air. And of course, we all know that we need oxygen to survive, and algae can grow in places that lots of other plants can't grow. Algae includes seaweed, kelp, things that grow in marine environments. And think about it, the earth is covered in about 70 to 75% water. Well, most other plants can't grow in water, but algae can. So we have all this algae growing in aquatic environments on our planet, and releasing oxygen as they're photosynthesizing, as they're making their own food. So all that oxygen is getting released into the air, and that is what we are able to breathe. So next time you see algae, it might not be the prettiest plant on the planet, but boy, is it beneficial for all other life on Earth. All right, so that's my little spiel on algae. Just gotta give it its props. If anyone else has some information about algae that you want to mention, please feel free to jump on this feed and send me some messages. I'm going to go ahead and move on to our next overlooked organism right now. But yeah, just one more scan real quick. Algae does look very beautiful today, doesn't it? Beautiful place. And by the way, I've got my ears perked too, so if I happen to hear a bird or a frog calling and it's close enough that I think it will pick up in the on the live stream, I will make sure to try to point those sounds out as well. So here we go. We're gonna keep on going down the trail. I'm gonna turn my camera back to the trail, and we're following this rock wall here as we go down the trail. This is like if you go down to Algae Pond from the museum and you take a right down the trail. This is where we're going right now, but I'm not gonna, like I said before, I'm not gonna take the full Algae Pond trail. I'm going to veer off on another trail. We've got this beautiful rock wall, okay? And this rock walls on sunny days are always good places to look for little organisms, and sometimes larger organisms, especially things like chipmunks and garter snakes that like to bask on the rocks. I've probably scared them all away at this point. But rock walls provide some really good shelter for lots of organisms. All right, we're going to keep on moving down here. And okay, so here's where we have a fork in the trail. If you could continue down this way, that takes you around Algae Pond. Although I do have to say it is very wet back there right now. I didn't think it would be as wet as it was. It's not really even passable at this point. We are going to go this way, and this is going to take us into the deeper woods. All right, I'm passing by some skunk cabbage here. Now, I've talked about skunk cabbage on some other walks before, so I'm probably not going to say too much about it today, except that it stinks. Don't step on it. If you break off a piece of the leaf and give it a smell, you will see why it is called skunk cabbage. But I wouldn't exactly call skunk cabbage inconspicuous. I mean, look how big these leaves can get. So skunk cabbage is hard to miss when you're walking on the trail. All right, but if anyone has any more questions about skunk cabbage, feel free. Here's something that at this point is a little bit harder to detect on the trail, but if you take a close enough look, it is coming up all over the place lately. Anybody recognize those leaves of 3? See those? Let's see if I can get, there we go. There's a pretty good sample right there. I need to watch where I put my hands. Why, of course? Because this is poison ivy. Poison ivy, the leaves are now emerging, okay? And at this point, the leaves do have that red, shiny appearance. Although as they grow, they will turn green and they won't necessarily be shiny. So don't use red and shiny as your only indicators of poison ivy. Think about the leaves of 3, leave them be. Not everything in nature that has 3 leaves is poison ivy. There are plenty of things with 3 leaves that are not. But if you're not sure, I would stay away from touching things with 3 leaflets like this until you know for sure what it is. Poison ivy, just so you know, tends to have the leaflet that comes out in the middle tends to have a longer stem, or petiole, I should say, than the stems on either side. Just as a little hint there. But once again, poison ivy isn't the only plant that you could say that about. So just remember that rule of leaves of 3, leave them be. I will continue to show you more samples as we walk along the trail, just so you can see some variation. This one, you can see the vine as well growing across the rock. Here's some that is more like ground cover coming up from the ground, although it probably is also attached to the vine. You can also have poison ivy growing up tree trunks, which I will show you in a little bit. So anyways, leaves of 3, leave them be. Okay, we're going to move on. This happens to be a muddy spot. Anytime you cross a muddy spot, take a close look to see if there are any tracks that catch your eye. When I was walking across here earlier, I did notice one. So I'm going to show it to you real quick. You got to get down here to see it. Okay, anybody want to take, oh, my shadow's in the way. There we go. Anybody want to take a guess on this one? I'll show you another one for comparison right above. Oh, I got to turn the other way so my shadow's not blocking. Here's the track of a different animal right next to it. Okay, so we're talking about this track versus this track. All right. I'll just give it a second to see if anyone wants to chime in what they think it might be. Yes, Kathy, very good. This is a raccoon track. And Phoebe, yes, you got it, girl. And Caitlin, yes, raccoon track, very good. As opposed to a canine track right here, most likely from a dog that was walking this trail earlier today. But if you notice, one of the big ways you could tell a raccoon track is it almost looks like a, oh gosh, I'm trying hard to keep my shadow out of the way. Almost looks like a human hand. 5 visible digits. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Whereas if you're talking about a feline track or a canine track, you've got the 4 digits or the 4 paws there. But their 5th digit doesn't usually make a track because it's usually that dew claw. Check out your dogs at home and maybe your cats if they'll let you, and you'll see what I mean. That 5th digit doesn't come down as far as the other ones, so it doesn't show up in a track. But a raccoon, all 5 digits show up. Hard to see it in focus. Okay, let me see if I can. Hope that's making it a little bit better. All right. So, anyways, oh, and here's a deer track. Again, probably tough to see, but we're looking at two hoof prints right there. So muddy spots are a really good place to check out where animals have been walking through, and you can do some close investigation. All right, and I'm trying to follow the feed. Here. If I missed any questions, please just know that I will go back through after this program, and I'll make sure to try to answer any questions or respond to any comments. So I have a hard time doing the walking and talking at the same time and checking a news feed. There's just too many things for me to be able to handle. All right, let's move on a little bit further here. I've got something else I want to show you. Here we go. I'm going to stop right here. Okay. Let's see. Spin it around. All right. So here I said I was going to mention some ferns, and I by no means know all of the ferns that live in this area. We have so many different species of ferns, and I am no expert on ferns, but I do know a couple of varieties because of some kind of fun ways that you can identify them. So these are new fronds that have come up from a type of fern called a Christmas fern. a Christmas fern. I'll tell you why we call it that. Number one, it is an evergreen fern, so the fronds from the year before will stay green throughout the winter. So technically, if you go hiking on Christmas Day, even if there's a thin layer of snow on the ground, you could possibly see the greenery of a Christmas fern. There are a couple of other evergreen ferns too, like the evergreen wood fern, but Christmas fern definitely catches your eye with its green color during the winter time. And then the other reason why we call it a Christmas fern is because if you take off just one of these leaflets, and you take a close look at it, hopefully this will be in focus. Whoop, that's not in focus. Come on. All right, I might just need to, my hands aren't big enough. I'm going to try to tap the phone to get it in focus here. Come on. Give me a second, guys. We're working on it. We are working on it. It really wants to be focused on the background. What if I put it next to my jeans? Aha! We maybe came up with a solution. Okay, there we go. I'm just going to set it right there. And actually, I'm going to get one that's an even better example. Let me grab one more frond or leaflet here. Okay, so if you look at these, you'll notice that they have little knobs that come off of the end of them. Almost like if you were to hang them or look at them vertically, they look like little feet of a stocking, okay? And stockings, of course, come out at Christmas. We hang them on our fireplaces. So whoever identified this fern or named it noticed the knobs at the base of the leaflets and thought, hey, that reminds me of stockings, and stockings remind me of Christmas. So this is called a Christmas fern. And like I said, these are brand new. So you can see some of them are still even curled up. So these are brand new fronds that have come out this spring. But you can, when you go through the woods, you can definitely see older evergreen fronds too. They tend to be fairly dark in color. Okay, so that is the evergreen fern, which this is the Christmas fern, which I am a big fan of. Simply because they're easier to identify than most of the other ferns out there. Let's see, I see a question that says, can animals eat them? And I'm not sure if that was in reference to the poison ivy or the skunk cabbage or the ferns. So I'll try to answer all three of those. Skunk cabbage, most animals don't eat the leaves, but it is one of the main food sources of black bears in the early spring when the skunk cabbage leaves just start to emerge. They, I guess, are palatable for bears. At this point, and I don't know if it's because of the amount of toxin in the leaves or whatever the case may be, but skunk cabbage doesn't get eaten by too many animals. Poison ivy, believe it or not, is edible for every other animal that we can figure or that we have studied. Completely edible. A lot of animals eat the leaves, eat the berries. It's just human beings that seem to have the major rash, the reaction to poison ivy. So that's kind of interesting. And then ferns, I think that ferns are very edible by certain animals. I don't know for sure about Christmas fern. And I'm not going to recommend anything as being edible for people on this talk because I just don't know enough about edible plants, so I'm not even going to go there. But I assume that wildlife do eat them. Let's see. Okay, you were asking about the ferns. Okay, so yeah, when it comes to ferns, yeah, certain animals can eat them, and they can be a good food source for them. Whether or not they're edible for humans, I'm not sure. Well, actually, now that I think about it, fiddleheads, which are the young ferns, here, let me turn this back around again. So this one is not really a fiddlehead anymore. It's coming unfurled, but, oh, here's some fiddleheads right there. There are certain species of ferns where the fiddleheads are edible, but again, I don't know which exact species, and I'm not sure that all of the fiddleheads are edible, so please do any research before you decide to give them a taste or put them in your salad. All right, let's go ahead and move on to another small wonder that we might see on this trail. Ugh. And while I was sitting here looking at ferns, I noticed a super cool plant over here. Let me get in there. Anybody know what this is? I'm gonna give it just a second to see if anyone wants to chime in. Look how cool the pattern is on that leaf. These are native to this area. They have bright red berries in a cluster underneath this leaf later on in the season. This is called a Jack in the Pulpit. Yes, Beckman Mountain. Beckman Mount? Yeah, you are correct. You are correct. Jack in the Pulpit. Yes, Kathy, very good. Excellent. Yep. Now we're getting them. Oh, I think, yeah, there was just a delay in getting the responses to me. Pretty cool. I didn't notice that when I was first out walking this trail earlier. So we found a Jack in the Pulpit. Nice. Okay, we're going to keep on moving along here. We'll go down in this beautiful boardwalk area. Again, we're still following the rock wall. Up there is either a chipmunk or a red squirrel that is scolding me as I approach closer. I'm sure he's in this rock wall somewhere. He or she. Where are you, buddy? Can't see it, but I definitely heard it. Let's keep going here. Okay, again, so much skunk cabbage. Lots and lots of skunk cabbage. Oh, here's something that might need to take a closer look at. These leaves right down here, they often grow in wet environments. No flowers on them yet. Won't get flowers until August. Sometimes even till September. That's jewelweed. Jewelweed. And this type of plant, you can take the leaves, crush them up, and rub them on a poison ivy rash, and it supposedly helps with the itching of the rash. Okay. I have one little spot over here that I want to tuck myself down into because I noticed there's some really good moss down here. Really good moss. So I want to talk a little bit about some moss. Here's one species of moss right here. Here's another. You can just tell by the difference in the leaf shape. Okay. So there are, as far as we know, at least 200 to 300 different species of moss just in Connecticut alone. So again, I can't tell you what the exact species are here, but my reason for showing you moss is, number one, I just love how it's like nature's pillow. And I love that when you really start to look for moss, you can just see so much of it throughout the forest, creating a blanket across the forest floor. And I love just putting my hand in it and feeling it. But another reason why I love moss is because of the cool critters, microscopic critters that live inside of it or amongst it. And I'm going to show you a picture. And before I even get to the picture, somebody might tell me the type of organism that I am so excited about has actually survived in space. The only known animal to survive come back from space, being exposed to all of the elements up there and come back and still survive. We are going to talk a little bit about the tardigrade. The tardigrade. This is a picture of a tardigrade under a microscope, just a low power microscope. And I'm trying to get the glare to go away for you. And tardigrades have a couple of fun nicknames. Just by looking at this picture, you'll know why it's also called a water bear. A water bear, it has that big, looks like just a big fat bear. The word tardigrade actually means slow mover, kind of like bears lope around. Apparently tardigrades also have that type of locomotion. And the first person who discovered, yes, Lisa, water bear. The first person that some are still left in space? Oh, that's cool. That's really interesting. The first person that discovered tardigrades did call them water bears. And then it wasn't until a little bit later that the name tardigrade became more popular. Another name for them is, I love this, is a moss piglet. A moss piglet. Again, I guess it looks a little bit like a pig, but that one of their favorite places to live is in moss. In fact, in this sample alone, there are probably hundreds, maybe even a couple thousand tardigrades that are living in here. And in fact, fun little experiment if you want to try it. I know I need to try it. If you take a piece of moss and you soak it in water and then put that water sample under a low power microscope, that's usually the best way to be able to see the tardigrades come out. So give that a shot if you happen to have a microscope at home. And so these tardigrades, let me just read that, can withstand gamma radiation, a lack of oxygen, and the intense blast of solar winds. They can also go without food or water for over 10 years. Like we said, they've also survived space. So these animals are super fantastic. Moss piglet. Oh, yeah, I did read about that. Yeah, there was was it an Israeli space capsule that was up there that crashed, and there were tardigrades on it, and they were, yeah, something. I need to do more research on that, but yes, we definitely know. I think it was back in 2007 that they sent tardigrades into space and found out that they did survive exposure. So pretty cool, right? Water bear, moss piglet, what a cool animal, just living amongst all this moss by the hundreds and thousands. It's amazing. Moss provides shelter for many different types of organisms, some microscopic, some macroscopic. Moss also helps prevent erosion in certain areas. And of course, it basically increases the overall moisture of a habitat, of an environment, because of its sponginess, the fact that it absorbs so much water, it can retain so much water in its leaves. All right. Okay, my husband's telling me we got a little bit frozen on the tardigrade caption. So I'm not sure how much we missed, but if you have any other questions about tardigrades, or if you missed a fun fact about them, I was basically just saying they're super cool. They can handle almost any type of extreme condition. They can live dormant for about 10 years, and they live in moss. They live in moss, as well as lichen and some other small plants or plant partnerships in the case of lichen. Okay. All right, let's go ahead and move on here. We'll move on from the moss. Okay. Try not to step on any of this skunk cabbage that I'm surrounded by. And we'll keep on going here. Got some more ferns now at different species. And again, I'm not as familiar with all species of ferns, but I just wanted to show you that they're all around me here as I'm walking, because they do tend to like aquatic environments. Here's within the skunk cabbage, I see sensitive fern right here. Kind of reminds me of Gumby for some reason. Just the shape of its leaves. Pretty unique compared to other ferns. So that's another one that I tend to remember. Sensitive fern. Okay, we're going up the hill. Going up the hill here. Let's see what else we can find. Okay. More ferns right here. Oh, I remember seeing this before. This is a native plant called Solomon seal. And this one is most likely false Solomon seal. No flowers yet. No flowers yet. The false Solomon seal will have flowers that bloom at the very end, and the true Solomon seal will have flowers that droop on the stem going down it. But no flowers yet, but that's a really cool native woodland wildflower, Solomon seal. Okay. Got a little bit of Japanese barberry there. Non-native plant. What else are we seeing as we walk through here? Is anyone, I know I'm passing a lot of different plant species, flower flower, plant, tree species. So if you see one that you want me to, oh, here's some more poison ivy right there. Okay. Now, I do know there is a really pretty flower blooming right here. It's almost at the end. We've kind of passed the bloom stage of this flower, but I still found one that's hanging on. This beautiful flower is called a Trillium. Looks like it's had some insect visitors chewing on the petals. What color flowers do Solomon seals have? They are white. They are white. Okay, so here we are at red Trillium. Red Trillium. Trillium has the word tri in it, the prefix tri, which makes a lot of sense because we have 1, 2, 3 leaves right here. We also have, if I can show you the other side of this flower, we have 1, 2, 3 sepals on the underside of the flower, and 1, 2, 3 petals. So everything really kind of comes in threes. And Trillium just has such a gorgeous flower. So I love this one. If you take a quick walk through the woods, you might walk right past them, especially when they're kind of curved over like this. But if you take a closer look, Trilliums are blooming all throughout. But like I said, we're kind of towards the end, so you might not see quite as many in bloom at this point. Have a lot of Canadian Mayflower leaves coming up right here, all along the edge. What else can I show you here? Let's see. Oh, I think I said I would point out, if I could find it, some fungus. We've got some turkey tail fungus. You're right, Lisa, this trail does have wonderful plants as well as so many other things. Let's just quickly talk about fungus. Fungus is in its own kingdom entirely, so not a type of plant, not a type of animal. Fungus is fungus, the fungus among us. And there are so many different varieties, everything from this turkey tail fungus to you know, classic looking mushrooms to slime molds. But they're all so important because they help break down nutrients and return those nutrients to the soil to enrich that space for new organisms, plants to grow. Oh, here's another Jack in the Pulpit right next to this turkey tail fungus. And this Jack in the Pulpit, now I'm seeing on this one, I didn't notice it before, but this one has the Jack in, well, if I can get to it. No, I can't. Let's see if I can lift up this. Can I see it in there? No, I don't see Jack in there. But then it's got the three leaves too. I need to do more research on Jack in the Pulpit. I bet it's the difference between a male and a female. But that is another Jack in the Pulpit. Pretty cool. Another fern right here. Let's see. What else do we have that I want to show you? There's so much. It's hard to even make it a quarter of a mile on a trail when you really start looking at all the cool things. Oh, I'm seeing on this tree. Here's some poison ivy, and notice these leaves have gotten far enough along that they are no longer red or shiny. So just a good example of the fact that it's not always like that. So, but again, you're going to still see those 3 leaves with the middle leaflet having a longer stem than the ones on the side. All right, and once we go a little bit further here, there's a nice big poison ivy hairy vine that I can show you, just so that we know what that looks like. All right, as we walk along, now we're on more of this was an old carriage trail that when the whites lived here, they made some carriage trails that went through the woods. So this takes you all the way, if you keep going, takes you all the way to Bantam Lake. And there's a really nice platform out there. I tried going there earlier. Unfortunately, the reception wasn't going to work for leading this live stream. But I highly encourage you to walk out to the Bantam Lake platform. I want to show you this wildflower. A lot of the native wildflowers that bloom in this early spring tend to be white. The flowers are white, but here's one that breaks that rule. Here we have this beautiful wild geranium that has these lavender flowers, 5 petals. and a really, really interesting looking leaf. Very distinctive leaf. Okay, let me show you another example of one right here. Some people call it Cranesbill. All right, beautiful flower there. So be on the lookout for wild geranium blooming right now with those light purple flowers. I'm trying to think if there's, there is a song in Hansel and Gretel. Oh, tell me more about this. I'm going to turn myself around real quick and I'm going to try to go through this feed very quickly and just see all the amazing comments that I missed. I apologize again. I have a hard time talking and reading the feed at the same time. So as I go through, touch it, I dare you. Oh no, I have learned my lesson touching poison ivy. Not going to do that. Let's see. Ferns. We talked a little bit about ferns. Jack and the Pulpits. Talked about tardigrades. Oh, somebody is, yeah, we need to talk about lichen. That's right. Let me go back because I found a really good rock with some lichen on it that I want to focus on. I skipped right past that, so thank you for mentioning lichen in the feed. Oh, here's some before I even get down to where I was going to go. Just on this branch that fell off of a tree. Lichen, that light green crusty stuff that you find on trees and on rocks. I'm going to show you a really nice rock right here. Check out the lichen. Got lichen here. We've got a different kind of lichen here. Lichen comes in crustose, foliose, and fructose, I believe. Different kinds of lichen. But the important thing to know about lichen is that it is not just one organism. It is actually the partnership between two organisms. It's a symbiosis between fungus or fungi and algae. Okay, and somebody in the feed started reciting a story that I actually have right here as well. So story time, everyone. Get your kids, gather them around. Let's read a little story about those likable lichens. I'm going to switch back to here. Okay. Are we all ready for it? It's a very short story, by the way. Those likable lichens. Alice Algae and Freddie Fungus were both young and out on their own for the first time, but both were finding that living by themselves was quite a task and left them little time for enjoyment or relaxation. So Alice Algae suggested that they try being roommates for a while and sharing duties to see if that would give each of them a little bit more free time. Freddie Fungus liked the idea, and he agreed. He said he would take care of providing the house and maintaining it so that they'd have a safe place to stay. Alice Algae said that if Freddie would do that, she would take care of getting food and making sure that they were well fed and didn't lack any nutrients. And that arrangement worked so well that they got to lichen each other. There you go. Story of the day. Basically explaining that when it comes to lichen, I'm going to go back to this. You've got the fungus, which is basically kind of providing the structure, support structure for the algae to live on. And the algae, being that it is a plant, is making its own food. So it is providing the nutrients for the partnership. So that's why it works well together. It's a mutualistic symbiosis. And I have a fun activity for you all to try. Maybe not necessarily at this moment, but when you get a chance, when you're bored tonight watching TV, you need to get up and move around a little bit. You and a partner, someone else in your house, need to become a lichen together. Okay, so one of you will be the fungus, one of you will be the alga, and you're going to turn back to back, and you're going to link arms. Okay, so you're back to back with your arms linked at your elbows, all right, so that you are two organisms working together, and as partners, you're going to try to sit down all the way down on your bottom without unlinking your arms, okay? See if you can collaborate, partner together, and sit all the way down. Okay, that's the easy part. The harder part is trying to get from the fully sitting position to standing back up while still having your arms linked. Okay, now be careful with this activity. I almost broke my niece's arm doing this. Jesse, if you're still on this call, I don't know if you remember what I did to Quinn that one day, because I was the bigger person and I didn't unlink, and so I fell on top of her. So make sure that you unlink if the partnership isn't going well. But try it. Try to go from sitting all the way down to standing up back to back with your arms linked. And then you will really understand what it's like to work together with another organism like algae and fungi work together to make lichen. All right. All right, we're gonna go ahead and move on. And I'm just gonna catch up on my feed here one more time. Yes, the getting up part is the hard part. Fructose, thank you, husband Josh. It's not fructose, as that is a sugar. A fructose, I apologize. Okay, we're gonna keep moving here. Okay. All right, up the trail we go. I'm sure you'd rather look at this beautiful trail than at my face. So here we go. Going down the trail. I've pretty much shown you everything I wanted to show you, but on our way back here, you can type in more comments, or you can we can just see if anything random pops up while we're making our way back. All right, for some reason I have no comments coming in. Oh, maybe I need to press this. Nope, that's to write a comment. Well, I can't see your comments at the moment, but hopefully they'll come back. Okay, so here we are. Oh boy, I've got a very mad red squirrel. I encountered this squirrel earlier today too. This is obviously where this squirrel is hiding its cache of food, its midden, and he's really protective of this particular downed log. Let me zoom in if I can. Oh, it's not letting me zoom in. Oh boy. Hey, how's it going? Good. It's one of my former camp students cycling by. All right, so anyhow, this, by the way, this downed log, huge log, used to be part of this tree, which was the old man in the tree. The way the branches formed, it looked like the face of a man with his arms outstretched, and we loved looking at it. But eventually it did fall. See that tree back there? And so this is the decaying log at this point, but obviously serving a very important function. There's the squirrel again. It's okay, buddy. I'll get out of your way. Red squirrels, they know how to stand their ground. They can be aggressive. I don't blame them though. Oh, I've got two calling at me. One behind me and one in front of me. Okay, it is time to move on. All right. I'm gonna keep on walking down here. Oh, and the old man in the tree was the tree that has the really thick vine of poison ivy. So let me jump up here real quick. And yes, I'm probably walking in poison ivy as we speak, so I will make sure to be careful when I take off my shoes. But here we have a very old and established hairy rope. So I am not going to be a dope and touch that hairy rope. I am going to leave it alone. You can see there are leaves that are coming out of it now. But even when there are no leaves, just touching that hairy rope could potentially give you the same rash, because every part of the plant has the oils or the urushiol on it. So please be very careful, avoid hairy ropes, and avoid leaves of 3. Okay. All right, folks, we are basically making our way back to the main area right now. So if anyone has any other comments or questions, although at this point, for some reason, I can't see my feed. So I'm just going to make sure that I go back through afterwards, and I will comment or answer any questions if I can. Thank you all so much for also being great educators on this feed. I really appreciate you coming. coming on this virtual hike. We're going to continue to do these through the summer, most likely. We're a not-for-profit organization. Money is obviously a little bit of a struggle right now. If you are able to provide any sort of donation as a thank you, or if you're finding these lessons helpful, please jump on our website, whitememorialcc.org. Either a one-time donation, or even better, if you'd like to become a member of White Memorial, there are some benefits that go along with it. And it shows some really nice support. So thank you all so much for joining me on this Small Wonders walk. And if you live locally, make sure to find a nice secluded trail in one of our 40 miles of trails here at White Memorial. It's amazing the beauty of nature that is all around us right now. So I hope you enjoy it. Thank you all so much. Take care. Bye-bye.